Amtrak has started repainting its sleeper cars. Here's why that's important. When it comes to trains, branding matters. You want a color and a logo that stick out and are memorable. Take it from the airline industry. Everybody sees blue and knows it's KLM. You see yellow, it's Spirit. Back in train world, if we look at the Netherlands, the colors yellow and blue have basically become synonymous with trains. Or go to Boston, where everybody knows that commuter trains are purple. The reverse is also true. Many commuter trains and most subways in the United States are completely silver, save for a small logo pasted somewhere. For example, many movies set in New York will use footage of trains from Chicago and vice versa. Because really, who's gonna notice the difference? They're all silver. To me, the lack of livery, or really any design, highlights the attitude that was prevalent for so long, where utility was really all that mattered, nothing else. Passenger safety, experience, or comfort, they weren't important. Trains exist just to move people who have no other choice. They're just backdrops in a movie. No one really cares about them. I do think that is beginning to change. But one company that's always largely resisted that mindset is Amtrak, despite strong political pressure to do so. Founded in 1971 by Congress to take over the financially struggling passenger rail routes from private companies, Amtrak has faced political opposition and a tight budget basically since its founding, and the decisions they've made have certainly not all been perfect. Some could be classified as downright anti-passenger. But one thing can be said. With Amtrak, it was never just about getting from point A to point B. Whether it was providing top comfort, preparing high-quality food, we're just going to pretend flex signing never happened, continuing the tradition of observation cars with panoramic windows, or collaborating with travel agencies to offer combined vacation packages, an Amtrak experience can be a relaxing way to see the country, which is also why I think they've always cared about what their trains look like. When they were first founded, Amtrak received a hodgepodge of equipment from other companies. They quickly scrambled together to paint one locomotive, number 4316, into what would become the Day 1 livery. And this livery lives on through locomotive number 301, which carries it today, one of my absolute favorite units. But from that moment on, Amtrak began a systematic design campaign. While the early days of Amtrak might have been known as the Rainbow Days because of the colorful mix of equipment they inherited, as they began repainting and purchasing new equipment, the company developed a structured national livery of red, white, and blue. Over time, the color scheme would be tweaked or redesigned, and each design began to be known as a phase. There have now been 7 phases. Today, you are most likely to come across either Phase III, which is used on some Viewliner sleeper cars as well as locomotives in New York State, Phase V, which is used on the Acela and many of the Genesis locomotives, Phase VI, which is used on the vast majority of passenger cars, and Phase VII, the latest livery. The new Charger locomotives have been delivered in Phase VII, and Amtrak has also begun repainting their older locomotives into what I have to say is my favorite livery to date. But at the same time, they also run a few locomotives with what is called a heritage livery. In other words, a paint scheme pointing back to their old liveries. And if at this point you're thinking, Tom, haven't you already talked about this before? You're right. Last year, I released a video where I showed you every Amtrak heritage locomotive, as well as the first engine to be repainted into Phase VII. That video was a big deal for me. I had been collecting footage for it for over 2 years. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd really appreciate you giving it a watch. You'll even see a locomotive which unfortunately is no longer with us. Anyway, at the end of that video, I said this. Amtrak will gradually repaint their Superliner, Amfleet, Horizon, and Viewliner cars into the Phase VII scheme as well, beginning later this year. Of course, those are developments that we will be closely following here. So this is a follow-up, because we now finally have our first passenger cars in Phase VII livery. A growing number of Viewliner sleeper cars have received Phase VII, starting back this past December. They received the new coat of paint at Amtrak's Beech Grove shops in Indiana. The Viewliner is a single-deck sleeper car used in the eastern United States. There are 2 series, Viewliner 1, which up until now had carried a Phase VI livery, and the newer Viewliner 2, which carries a Phase III livery. The Viewliner 1s are first up for the new paint scheme. Earlier this month, I finally caught one of them on the Floridian as it passed through Washington, D.C. on its way from Miami to Chicago. Let's take a closer look. When I posted a picture of these on my Instagram, a lot of people responded negatively, that they didn't like it. That surprised me a little bit. I like this better than Phase VI. I would have loved to see a car that was fully blue and red, but I knew that that wasn't realistic for these. We will have to wait for the arrows before we can see that. My one main critique is that the white slashes separating the colors are broken up by the windows, and I feel like those could have been moved somewhere else. Now here's where things get really interesting. Along with the debut of this freshly painted Viewliner, Amtrak announced some specifics regarding the design language of Phase VII, which will eventually make its way to the Superliner, Amfleet, and Horizon cars. Here by the door, in the red section, you see the words First Class Sleeper. Amtrak will be using color coding by the doors to identify what class you can expect to find inside that car. Red means first class or sleeper cars. Blue will indicate that this is a business class section, and green will be used to identify coach class. It's like how European trains tend to have markings on the outside showing where the first class is. I'm looking forward to seeing how that will play out as more cars roll out. And that's all I really have for today. What's your favorite Amtrak phase? Or what's your favorite train livery ever? As always, let me know in the comments below. If you're new around here, feel free to check out any of my other videos. We ride and talk about trains from all over the world here. If you like what you see, please subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.